just thinking about, thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
I was just thinking about Marilyn's talk about her dad, and it actually reminded me of what drove me to go to a healing service. I had just gone through a period where my father had gone in for knee replacement surgery about almost a year earlier, and the knee replacement surgery did not go well. Well, just put it that way. He ended up hospitalized for 6 months, nearly died 4 times, and just came out of the hospital with a lot of problems. And me being involved in medical research and being a scientist, I felt, you know, I just felt so limited and powerless, because here I had this father who was healthy. He went in for what was a simple procedure, and he came out with his life changed forever, a disabled person. So I was searching and looking for something for him. And then one Sunday bulletin, there was on the cover, healing service this Tuesday night with Barbara O'Malley. I hadn't heard of Barbara. I was familiar with healing. I had earlier, back in college days, gone to see Catherine Coleman once, so I was familiar with it, but I didn't really know much about it. But something compelled me that I needed to go to find if there was something there for my dad. And that was really my motivation, was to go looking for him. Little did I know, we hear Lord makes all things good. Little did I know, but it took me a while to recognize that my dad's illness was turned into something profoundly good for me.
Praise you, Jesus.
That day of the service, I was at work, and almost all of my chronic problems were bothering me that day. So I didn't have anything life-threatening. I just had things that would debilitate you. So I had a history of pretty severe allergies that I had had since high school days, and even being on 3 different medications really didn't help that much. And this was springtime, it was April. Whenever the weather would get rainy and foggy, I would feel like I had the flu, and it was one of those cold, rainy spring days, and I just ached all over. Twice in my life prior to that, I had severe depression. It's bad enough when you get it the first time. The second time, all you do after that is live in fear that it will come back, because it was so unbearable the first time, and then you had to go through it again. And with that, panic attacks. I'd also had problems. I do a lot of computer work, and every day I'd be at work and I'd start getting really bad headaches and neck aches. And I was living on aspirin at the time, just to try to get through the day, because if I didn't keep taking the aspirin, the pain would be too bad to work at the computer. I also had, so I had arthritis in my neck. That was part of it. I also had an accident in college, weightlifting. The weights fell backwards when I was doing an overhead press, and I ended up with, on this side, a bad upper back and shoulder that would swell up and be aggravated by sitting at the computer, and it would all work together to just make me miserable. And I also had TMJ. I don't know, for those of you who are familiar with it, it's clicking jaw, but mine was bad enough that actually every morning I would wake up with a migraine. So I thought that day, I'm going for my dad. And as the day went on, I was just feeling worse, and it was, no, maybe I should just go home, because my typical thing to do would be, is if I felt really bad, I would just go home and go to sleep, just to try to ride it through, and hopefully when I would wake up, I would feel better. But something compelled me to go, and it was literally, I left work late, and I was starting to drive home, figuring, no, I'll just go to bed, but it was like something was compelling me, I needed to go. And then I thought, well, I'm going to be there late. And then I thought, no, I need to go for my dad. So I turned the car around, I went to the church, and it was a Tuesday night, and the church was really crowded with people, which is really unusual for a Tuesday night. I came in, the service had started, and I crawled into a pew in the back of the church, and I couldn't really, it's a long church, and I really couldn't even see up front except that there was a woman who was speaking. And as I sat there listening to a lovely sermon about how God loves us and wants to heal us, I started getting a panic attack. And if you've ever had a panic attack, you know that it can come on quick. And I was sitting in the middle of a row, which made it even worse, and I felt like the walls were closing in on me. And my first thought was, I can't get out of here fast enough because I got people on either side of me. Then I thought, no, I'll just sit here. And it got worse. And then I started feeling my legs vibrating, like my legs were trying to push me out of the church. And it was literally like that. I'm trying to sit, but I couldn't sit. I couldn't sit. It was like my legs were really trying to push me out of the church. And just at a point where the tension and the nervousness and this activity in my legs got the strongest, suddenly I got hit from above with, all I can describe it as if it's like a bolt of lightning came in from above and plunged deep inside me all the way down to my feet and was pulled out. And I felt myself jerk at that time. Then 3 seconds later, it happened again. And I guess the Lord just wants to make sure you really experience it because, right, Flory? It happened one more time. And I sat there, and the first thing I thought was, I don't know what happened, but I'm looking like around real self-conscious, because I literally felt like I had been pulled out of the seat, and I'm looking around to see if anybody else noticed. And everybody's just sitting there listening to the sermon. And I thought, oh, thank God they didn't notice. And I'm sitting there, and the next thing I notice, I'm feeling wonderful. All of my physical symptoms had disappeared. My eyes had cleared up from the allergies, the headache was gone, the aches all over were gone. That was the first thing I noticed. It was as if all of a sudden it was like I was in perfect health. But then the next thing I noticed was just the incredible love that I felt surrounding me. Suddenly I just felt secure and just warm, just completely enveloped in this feeling of love. And I sat there and I'm saying, I don't know what happened, but this was wonderful. A couple minutes later, Barbara, who was up in front, stopped the service and said, there's somebody in the audience who's been healed. Could you please step forward? So I'm looking around. And then she said it again, and then she said it the third time, and the third time she said, there's somebody in the audience who is being healed of allergies, of migraine, of panic attack, of arthritis. And it was as if she had opened up my medical record and was reading through my medical record everything that I had had. So I'm still looking around, I wonder who that was that got healed. I did not go up. That's why I started my story with saying it took me 10 months. I didn't go up. A few other people went up. They had been probably healed of something also. And I thought, well, thank God somebody got healed. And here I am sitting there feeling wonderful and not recognizing that I'm being called. Then later in the service, everybody was called forward for prayer. And I stepped forward and Barb just laid her hands on me. And if you haven't experienced it, often you just feel like you want to lie down. Not everybody, but often you feel that way. You just feel like what you want to do is rest. And I just fell backwards, and there was somebody there catching me. Well, as she laid her hand on my forehead, I felt this light electrical beam going into the middle of my head. Very different from my experience in the seat. And then I felt it separate into 3 distinct electrical beams. It went from the center of my head, one went to the back of my neck where I'd been suffering from neck arthritis for quite a while. Another one went to where I had the weightlifting injury. And the third one went to my jaw where I had the TMJ. And I laid there in ecstasy, feeling these beams just vibrating 3 different parts of my body. And I just sat there saying, I don't know what this is. But it was like, I reflected on it years later, and I'm a scientist, and I think the Lord just decided to tell me, you know what? I'm going to do something that you're not going to be able to explain, and I guess I needed. But it was so distinct, it was so precise. It was like a scientist would want to figure this out, you know. But I just sat there, just saying, this is extraordinary, and it's very different from what I had experienced before. And as I said, following that, I went home and didn't know how I would explain this to anybody, but then, you know, figured, well, the next morning I would wake up and I'd have to take my aspirin right away from migraine. Well, I got through the day, and it was like towards the end of the day, I said, I didn't take any medicine today. And then the next day, and then the next day, and then it took several months, and then I said, I have to explore this. Something very special is here, and I haven't left the ministry since then.
Praise you, Jesus.
And all I can tell you, whether this is your first time or your most recent time, if you've been away from a while and you're back, whatever it is, the Lord just keeps healing, because that's just one story. You know, that experience for me was so extraordinary that I looked back on it and figured, well, I got my quota for life. No, that did not happen. I've had other healings.
Praise you, Jesus.
The Lord will never be outdone. And all I can tell you is sometimes you could wait for years and you wake up one morning and realize something you prayed for 10 years ago is suddenly gone. Other times it happens in an instant, in a powerful way, and you can't deny it. And then there are other times when you've been healed and you leave and you come back, wondering whether you should come back because you've been away, and he's just waiting for you with open arms, ready to just take off from where he was before and saying, I'm glad you're back, and just wait, I've got something very special for you. And the most incredible healing has been really my spiritual awakening from this, because it started with physical healing, but the Lord worked on me more and more to draw me in. So as we said earlier, I just crave now Jesus. I go to Eucharistic adoration when I'm there, and when I'm there, sometimes I just walk in and my heart is pounding like I'm home and I don't want to leave. And I know others in the audience have had that same experience, but all I know is that my life changed. I'm sure that first experience was my calling, and I just ask all of you to just believe and accept whatever the Lord has in store for you today, because whatever it is, it's going to be incredible. Thank you.
Praise Jesus.